Hey y'all, and welcome to Be Finds Joy, where we are unapologetically living a joyous life boldly. And today we are on our third video of our Money Made Simple course, where we are creating a bold budget. This is the Budget Blueprint course, and I am ready to get started. Today's video is all going to be around identifying what your budget type is. Before you create a budget, it's important to know what type of budget you actually want to use, what method, what type for you to be successful. And so we're creating the foundation, giving you the skills that and the knowledge that you need to then have this budget that you'll create at the end of this course. So if this is your first time watching one of the videos, there is a playlist for the Money Made Simple course. If you are not a part of the Joy Fam, what are you doing? Join the Joy Fam. We have fun over here. We're going to get started because we got a lot to cover. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to identify what is the best budget type for you. I'm going to summarize the most popular budget types and then talk about the pros and cons of each one. And then I'll tell you what type of budget that I use for my budget method. So are you ready? Let's go. Okay, so I already wrote down the summaries for each of the most popular budget types that are out there that most people use. So we're gonna briefly go over it, and then I'll talk about each one, who it best benefits, and the pros and cons for that budget type. So the first one is the 50-30-20 budget. And this budget essentially is pretty simple. 50% of your budget goes towards your expenses that you need to survive and thrive. So your fixed expenses, the expenses that if you don't pay, someone's going to be knocking on your door, someone's going to be shutting something off, the expenses for you to live comfortably, your gas, your groceries, things along those lines, that is going to be under that 50% category. 30% will be under the wants that you want for your life. So these wants can be eating out or entertainment or traveling. Those are the wants of your life, where not necessarily what you need to survive and thrive, but these are things that are going to bring you joy. So 30% of your income goes to that. And then 20% of your income goes to savings or debt repayment. So that's the breakdown for the 50-30-20. You take your income, you separate it, 50% goes to your needs, 30% goes to your wants, and 20% of your income goes towards your savings and debt repayment. Now, who was this budget best for? This budget's really good for beginners. It's a simple method that works well. It gives you the clear-cut 50-30-20 ready to go for you. It's with people that have steady income. So if your income is kind of variable, that some months it's one way or some paychecks it's another amount, this might not be the best option for you. This is best for people that have a really steady income, because you know that you'll have those consistent monthly paychecks and you can budget out the 50-30-20 in that. You can do it with the varied paychecks, but it's just easier if you have a steadier income. And then this is great for families that can allocate out the money easily for the needs, wants, and savings without having a lot of things that would complicate it. So there's a lot of positives for this budget type. It's simple, it offers flexibility, it helps you to identify easily what your needs, wants, and where you want to save and pay off money. But it might not be the best method for those that don't necessarily have a consistent income and doesn't allow you to, for those that really want to have a more detailed budget of being able to see exactly where your money is going. So I know a couple of people that have used the 50-30-20. I know Naturally Lizzie, she has used the 50-30-20 or some type of 80-20 method. So if you want to see how that looked, you can definitely check out her channel or other channels. If you put in the 50-30-20 method, I'm sure there's many different YouTubers that are out there that can show you their process. All right, so the zero-based budget is basically where every cent, every dollar of your income is assigned with a purpose, and you will take your income minus your expenses, so both your variable and fixed expenses, and you will allocate it out to the point where at the end of the budget, you have no money. You zeroed it out. And it's not no money that you like don't have zero money in your bank account, but it's mainly that you have a detailed, itemized budget where you know where every cent is going. You know where every dollar is going in your budget. So this type of budget is best for people that are very detail-oriented individuals. They want to see the plan. They want to know where every cent, every dollar is going. This is also good for people that have variable income and varied incomes, because you are able to see what income that you have and allocate it out based on each paycheck or each month that might fluctuate. And this is also another great method and type for anyone that's trying to maximize your money, because it helps you identify and cut unnecessary expenses. So when you're seeing that you are budgeting out and you're like, oh, I don't necessarily have enough to go towards after I pay off after I do my fixed expenses and variable expenses, I don't have enough to put towards my goals, whether it's debt or savings, you can then go into your variable expenses, your groceries, your gas, your entertainment, and maybe reduce that amount that you've allocated out to then put towards your savings or put towards your debt. Or if you're noticing that you're looking at your income and your income is only covering your fixed expenses, so those bills that no matter what you have to pay, you might have to reevaluate and decide, like, maybe I need to cut back on some of my subscriptions, or maybe I need to cut back on cable and go to a streaming app. So it gives you the most itemized, detailed version of your budget for you to make the best plan moving forward. The pros of this budget, it's you have full control of your money. It ensures that your expenses, savings, and debt repayments are accounted for, because you're able to see that in your budget and make the necessary changes. But it might not be good for people that don't really want to sit down and go through it line by line, go through your budget line by line. It might not be people that don't have a lot of time on their hands. It requires a lot of tracking and really sitting down and looking at your budget and moving things around and things along those lines. So if that isn't the type of budget for you, then zero-based budget might not be your best budget type. But you heard about the benefits as well. The next one is pay yourself first, or the 80-20 method. And so this is kind of like the 50-30-20, but the 80-20 method. But pretty much if you are doing this type, you are prioritizing your savings. Your savings is your main goal within your budget. You get paid, you set aside a fixed amount of your savings before doing anything else. So that might work for people that are really goal-oriented savers. If you, within your budget, have a goal to save, this is a good method for you. It's ideal for those that want to increase and build their investment, their emergency fund, their savings. For those that are planning for long-term milestones, so building a house, retirement, a big purchase, a big vacation, this would be a good method for you. Also, it's a good method if you are a high earner. So you have a high, I would say, income. You have extra income that is coming out because you're putting aside right from jump the money to go towards your savings. So you make a lot of money and you don't necessarily have a lot of fixed income. So you don't have a lot of debt repayments or credit cards and things along those lines. Mainly this is good for those that have that savings in mind and have a more robust, I would say, income starting out. And I would say this requires a lot of discipline to stick to after your savings, right? It requires a lot of discipline, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for unexpected expenses. You are putting all of your money up front towards your savings goals, and you only have a little bit of money left over for your expenses. But what if there is an unexpected expense and now you have to figure out where that money goes? So I would say this one is the best for those that I would say have a high, their income is at a high level with low expenses, low fixed and variable expenses. The next one is the cash envelope budget. So this budget is for those that are allocating physical cash to different spending categories. So these categories could be bills, groceries, gas, personal. Essentially, you get paid, you know what your budget categories are, and you take cash out of the bank and put them in envelopes. You pay the expenses from those envelopes, and then once the money is gone from that envelope for the week or the month, you're done. You can't spend any more, and ideally you're not dipping it into any other envelopes to pay for other things. This is a method that has been really popular. This is the method that kind of I got looped into the budgeting world with. It's awesome to see people reaching their goals with this method. It provides a tangible way to track your spending because you are seeing, you have an envelope, you see how much money you start with, you're paying off things, and then you're tracking how much money is left in that envelope. It limits overspending. Again, once you've created your budget and identified how much money you want for that envelope, you're not overspending because once that envelope's money is done, you're done. You're not spending anything else. And then this is also another great type for those that maybe struggle with credit card use and are just like swiping their credit card and racking up a lot of debt. For those that are wanting to pay off their credit cards or just reduce the amount of time that they are going using their credit card, this method is really good for those people that have that need. It's like I said, overspenders. If this method is also good for visual learners because you are seeing the actual cash go into the envelope, you're seeing the actual cash come out of the envelope, you're seeing how much money is left over. And I would say for those that are working on paying off debt, like I said, with the credit cards or even student loans and things along those lines, this has been a really good method for those that need that additional support. It's not convenient if you don't want to take out cash. If you're not trying to go to the bank, if you're not trying to have envelopes. I know that there are methods where you can do a cashless type of a cash budgeting system, but the true sense of the cash envelope system is where you're taking the money out and having the envelopes. And you can have just like plain white envelopes, but there's so many different types of envelopes out there that are fancy, that they're unassuming. People probably wouldn't even know that you have the envelopes in your wallet and things along those lines. And it also requires you to go to the bank. Like I said, you're going to the bank getting the cash, and so if you're not trying to go to the bank every time that you get paid to put them in the envelopes, then this might not be a good option for you. And then last but not least is the reverse budgeting type. And so this type is where your focus is on savings and debt first, and whatever is left goes towards expenses. So it's kind of like the pay yourself first, but this one has that saving and debt combined in there, where your focus is on those two things, and then whatever is left over, then you pay your expenses from there. This method is good for, just like the pay yourself first, I would say high earners with clear goals of what they want to do with their savings or paying off debt. Another group of people that this might be good for is like minimalist, where you just want like a clear cut, this is how much money is going to this is how much money is going gonna stay in my savings account for my expenses, and that's it. And then I would say this method is good for those, and I would say this method too, both of these are those that have like a really clear-cut fixed expense, and there's not a lot of unexpected expenses that are coming, because then that would kind of throw off your method and your budget. This one doesn't necessarily offer a lot of like day-to-day guidance on how you budget. It's kind of like a set it and forget it in a way. And it requires a deep understanding of what your fixed expenses are, like I say, because you are paying, your main focus is on paying off the savings and debt, and then you're just leaving the money in your account for your expenses or paying your expenses that way. And so you really need to have a better understanding of that. And if you don't have a good understanding of what your fixed expenses are, probably not going to be the best method for you. So these are the top 5 budget types that are most common, and I would say that you don't have to pick necessarily just one. So for me, my budget type is, I'm a hybrid. So I'm both a zero-based budgeter as well as a cash envelope budgeter. I have found that I've been able to reach my financial goals by doing both of these together. And so I budget out every paycheck, start with my income, pay my fixed expense, budget out my fixed expenses, budget out my variable expenses, and then whatever's left over will then go towards either savings or debt. And then I also, for my variable expenses, so my groceries, eating out, personal miscellaneous, I'll take money out of the bank and put them in my own type of cash envelope system and pay through that method. Now, I haven't used this method in a while, but I'm gonna go back to it, because when I tell you I saw so much progress with reaching my goals using this budgeting system, because it really is like, once it's gone, and it really creates that discipline. And I would say that if you are starting out with budgeting, the main ones that I would recommend would probably be the 50-30-20 or the zero-based budget. I mean, even with the 50-30-20, you can change up. So this could be 60-20-10 if that works for you. You can change up this breakdown to best fit your needs if you don't want to have a more detail oriented budget like the zero-based budget. But I would recommend, if you're just starting out, to use one of these two, and that's what you'll see watching my channel and seeing my budget method, is that I definitely use that zero-based budget. And we'll be talking about, I think there'll be a bonus episode within this course all around the kind of saving and cash envelope budgeting, so definitely stick around for that. So based on this, what would you say is your best budget type that fits your individual needs? And on the next page, in page 8, this is where you can write what is your perfect match. So you and me, what type of budget? So I'm going to say zero-based and cash envelope are a perfect match. So that's my budgeting type. Definitely in the comments, list what your budget type is, and do a little bit more research. I mean, if you go on YouTube, you can put in all of those types and see examples of how they're used, and know that it doesn't have to be this is your end all be all. You can start using one type, realize that it might not work for you, and try another type. But knowing what the pros and cons and who each type kind of benefits helps you to narrow down which budget type would be the perfect fit for you. So our next video, we will be talking about income and expense tracking. Ooh. So how do you track your income? How do you track your expenses? And it's important that we know what our expenses are, because then that helps us to create a budget that's going to help us reach our goal, which is the purpose of this video. So that is it for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and comment. Let me know what your budget type is. Other than that, have a good rest of your day. See ya. Bye-bye.